Imagine for a second, you are stepping out of this gorgeous glass elevator onto an ultra-exclusive rooftop lounge in Soho.
Oh, man. That is the dream, right?
Right. I mean, the New York City skyline is just glittering all around you. The drinks are flowing, and the space is totally packed with people who seem to, I don't know, hold the keys to the universe, basically.
Exactly. The real heavy hitters.
Yeah, and you spot this group of highly influential players in your industry. So you walk up, you wait for that perfect opening, and you finally open your mouth to introduce yourself. But suddenly, you sound exactly like a high school grammar textbook.
Which honestly is the absolute fastest way to make that entire group just politely smile, nod, and immediately look for an excuse to walk away.
Is it brutal?
It's a harsh reality. But in that specific environment, perfect grammar just isn't enough. I mean, we like to think that memorizing the dictionary definition of words is the finish line of mastering a language.
Right, like you get the certificate and you're done.
Exactly. But in elite corporate or social circles, vocabulary isn't just about meaning. It is entirely about signaling.
It really is the ultimate linguistic tell, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, if you sound like you just studied for a proficiency exam, you immediately signal that you are an outsider.
Yes. You might as well be wearing a neon sign that says, "I don't belong here."
And that is exactly why today's deep dive is designed as a high-stakes strategy session. We are breaking down a very specific, real-world dialogue to instantly upgrade your English for high-end socializing and networking.
I am so excited for this one. We have a really fascinating interaction to analyze today.
We do. We are extracting the exact cultural nuances and the tactical conversational moves these professionals use. And by the time we're done today, you're going to leave that stiff textbook English in the dust, and you will sound like you truly belong in the room.
So to set the scene for this masterclass, we are looking at an exchange between two distinct characters.
Right, let's get into the sources.
So first, we have Liam. Now, Liam is this sophisticated, native New Yorker. He works in the fast-paced world of fintech. And he uses this effortless, razor-sharp local slang.
It's very smooth.
Very. And opposite him is Sophia. Now, she's an international professional visiting the city. Her English is perfectly fluent, like mechanically flawless. But she is on a very specific mission.
She wants to actually master natural, high-class conversations?
Exactly. She doesn't just want people to understand her words. She wants them to recognize her as a peer.
And what's so brilliant about this interaction is really how it starts. So they're standing on this rooftop, taking in the venue. And Sophia remarks that the view of the skyline is just unreal.
It's a classic icebreaker.
Right. And Liam agrees, but watch how he immediately dictates the entire energy of the conversation. He says, I've got the quote right here. He says, "Honestly, I was a bit wiped after a brutal week at the firm, but this vibe completely brings you back to life."
It's such a specific way to respond.
It really is.
Yeah.
And before we even touch the heavy-hitting business vocabulary today, we have to dissect this foundational energy he's establishing. This is what we call the NYC pace.
The NYC pace. It is a non-negotiable cultural concept if you want to survive in this ecosystem.
You have to know it.
You really do. In cities like New York or, London or Tokyo, but particularly in the Manhattan finance and tech worlds, time is the ultimate currency.
Yeah, nobody has time to waste.
Right. So small talk absolutely exists. Like, you don't just walk up to a stranger and demand a job.
That would be socially terrifying.
Exactly. But the small talk is incredibly fast, it is highly kinetic, and the pivot from casual chatting into high-stakes business networking happens in, like, the blink of an eye.
There is zero tolerance for meandering. You have to get to the point.
Which brings us directly to Liam's choice of words. When he says he is wiped, Sophia actually has to pause.
Right, she asks him to clarify. She says, "Wiped, you mean exhausted?"
And Liam confirms it. He says it means totally drained. He mentions he worked a 14-hour shift the day before, so he is absolutely wiped.
But let's look at the mechanics of this for a second. If I'm trying to match the velocity of this high-speed train we're talking about, why wouldn't I just use a universally understood word like exhausted? Like, why specifically choose wiped?
Well, think about the imagery of the word exhausted. It sounds almost clinical, right?
Clinical. How do you mean?
Like it sounds medical, like a condition you need to recover from in a hospital bed. Wiped, on the other hand, implies a surface that has been aggressively scrubbed clean of all its energy.
Oh, that's an interesting way to look at it.
But more importantly, we have to look at the cultural subtext of the whole hustle culture thing. In this specific context, telling someone you are wiped after a 14-hour shift is not a complaint. It is a very subtle, highly calculated flex.
Wait, a flex. So he's basically bragging while pretending to complain.
Precisely. That is exactly what he's doing. It proves that you work incredibly hard. And hard work is the foundational currency of respect in a relentless, high-pressure city like New York.
I see. So it's a badge of honor.
Yeah, exactly. Wiped implies this temporary state of physical and mental depletion, but it's caused by extreme, commendable effort. It basically says, I was in the trenches yesterday, moving markets, and I left it all in the field.
That is fascinating. So if he had just said, I am experiencing severe fatigue, he sounds like a robot.
Exactly, or just someone who can't handle the pressure.
But using wiped gives him this gritty, hardworking edge.
And notice how professionals in elite circles, whether it's fintech, venture capital, high-end real estate, they consciously avoid stiff language.
Right.
They deliberately mix highly complex financial terminology with this kind of sharp, trendy slang. It creates a very specific persona.
It tells the listener, hey, I understand the complex macroeconomic mechanics of my industry, but I'm also gritty, modern, and adaptable.
That is spot on.
It's basically the linguistic equivalent of wearing a bespoke, thousands of dollars tailored suit, but pairing it with like high-end limited edition sneakers.
Oh, I love that analogy. Yes.
Because it proves, the traditional rules perfectly, which then gives you the authority to bend them.
That is exactly the signal Liam is sending here. He is setting a baseline of high status and hard work. And that baseline allows him to seamlessly pivot the conversation toward the actual networking phase.
Right, because now he's proved his worth, so to speak.
Exactly. So then he tells Sophia that his buddy Julian might stop by the lounge. And he describes Julian by saying he's a big deal in venture capital.
And Sophia, who is clearly actively analyzing the conversation, she checks her understanding again. She asks, oh, a big deal. So he is very influential.
And Liam responds with just 2 words. He says, spot on.
But I want to pause on big deal for a second.
Yeah.
Because let's play this out. Let's say I'm at this rooftop party. I know Julian is this venture capitalist who controls literally hundreds of millions of dollars.
Right. He's a heavy hitter.
Isn't calling someone with that much power a big deal? Way too casual. Like, if I want to sound professional, shouldn't I say something like, he is a highly esteemed managing partner?
I get why you'd think that. It's a very natural instinct to want to elevate your formality when you're speaking about powerful people. But in modern elite networking, over-formality is actually a trap.
A trap? Really?
No, absolutely. It backfires. The casual nature of saying a big deal is exactly what gives Liam his power in this dynamic.
How so? Because to me, it almost risks sounding, I don't know, a little flippant, like you don't respect them.
Well, think about what happens when you speak about someone with this hushed, overly formal reverence. You immediately lower your own status.
Oh, wow. Okay, I see where you're going with it.
Right. You signal that you are intimidated by their wealth or their position, and that instantly tells everyone in the room that you are not on their level. You are a subordinate.
That makes so much sense.
By casually dropping, oh yeah, he's a big deal, Liam acknowledges Julian's extreme influence, but simultaneously proves that he is completely comfortable adjacent to that power.
Ah, I see. He's claiming peer status. It's like he's saying, yes, Julian moves markets, but at the end of the day, he's just my buddy Julian.
Yes, exactly. The casualness is the flex.
That is such a subtle power move.
It really is. It's that crucial balance of slang and professionalism. Wealth and power in these circles, they often whisper rather than shout.
Right, you don't need to announce it with a megaphone.
Exactly. You'll hear this constantly. Someone won't introduce a billionaire as the chief executive visionary. They will just casually mention, oh, she's a big deal in the fashion industry. It just projects supreme insider confidence.
That completely flips how I think about formal English. And then Liam validates Sophia's understanding of this by saying spot on. He doesn't say, yes, your assessment is correct.
Right, because spot on does a ton of heavy lifting in just 2 short syllables.
He really does.
It means completely accurate or precisely correct. Like you might hear a manager say, your analysis of the Q3 market trends was spot on. But socially, it functions as this micro-validation.
It's snappy. It fits that NYC pace we were talking about earlier.
Perfectly.
If he stops to say, yes, you have understood my meaning perfectly, it just completely drags the energy down. Spot on confirms she's smart, and it instantly greenlights the conversation to keep moving forward.
Right. It avoids getting bogged down in what we call conversational bureaucracy. It's fast, it's authoritative, and it's validating.
So we know Liam is entirely comfortable calling this highly influential guy a big deal. But acknowledging someone's power from across the room is just the first step.
Just the warm-up.
Right. So when Julian actually walks over, how does Liam suggest Sophia handle the interaction? Because Liam doesn't just leave her hanging here, he hands her a very specific strategy.
He really does. Liam elaborates on Julian's status by essentially upgrading him from a big deal to a mover and shaker.
Mover and shaker.
Yeah. He says, if you want to close major deals, you need to find the movers and shakers. And this is a spectacular noun phrase to understand.
Let's break it down.
So, a mover and shaker is a highly proactive, powerful person who initiates change and heavily influences events, particularly in business or politics.
Let's look at the physical imagery of those words for a second. Mover and shaker. It's highly kinetic. It's almost aggressive.
It is entirely active. A mover and shaker is not someone who, just inherited money and sits quietly behind a mahogany desk signing papers all day.
Right. They aren't passive.
No, they are the catalyst. They move the immovable obstacles out of the way and they shake up the stagnant status quo.
I love that imagery.
In a hyper-competitive landscape like New York tech or finance, being a mover and shaker implies you have relentless energy and just the sheer force of will to make things happen.
So Liam is basically warning Sophia, look, Julian isn't just rich. He's dangerous in a good way. He's active. And Liam follows this up with tactical advice. He tells her, if you want to get your foot in the door with NYC startups, he's the guy to talk to.
Get your foot in the door. Man, this is a classic idiom. But it remains heavily utilized because it just perfectly describes the initial phase of corporate networking.
Literally blocking a door from closing.
Right. It means to make a successful first step or a start in a career, an industry, or an organization. That initial wedge is what opens up further, much larger opportunities down the line.
Right, like taking an entry-level internship is often the only way to get your foot in the door at a massive tech conglomerate.
Exactly. And Sophia clearly understands the assignment here. She doesn't passively accept this advice. Her response is completely proactive.
What'd you say?
She says, good to know. I'll make sure to bring my A game when he arrives.
Which is just the perfect response.
It really is. Bring your A game is such a vital expression. It means to perform at your absolute peak level of ability.
It obviously originates from sports psychology, right? Like bringing your best performance to a championship game.
Yep, absolutely. But it has been completely co-opted by the high-stakes professional world. You'll hear managers say things like, the lead investors are coming tomorrow, so everyone needs to bring their A game to the pitch.
Hold on. Looking at these three phrases together, like foot in the door, mover and shaker, and a game, there's a very clear sequence happening here. It's almost like a formula for penetrating elite circles.
Oh, I like that. How do you mean?
Well, think of it like trying to get into an ultra-exclusive nightclub.
Okay, I'm tracking.
Getting your foot in the door is just convincing the bouncer to let you into the lobby. Like you're in the building, but you weren't at the party yet.
Right, you're just standing in the hallway.
Exactly. To get to the party, you have to identify the movers and shakers, the VIPs who actually dictate what happens inside. But simply finding them isn't enough. Bringing your A game to that interaction is how you actually convince them to invite you into the back room to close the deal.
Oh, wow.
You need all three steps in order.
That is a brilliant way to visualize the mechanics of networking. Because if you get your foot in the door, right, but you approach a mover and shaker with your C game.
And you over.
Exactly. If you stumble or sound like a textbook or just lack confidence, that door is going to slam right back on your foot.
Seriously.
The vocabulary they are using here perfectly reflects the strategic reality and the crazy high stakes of the environment.
Which naturally leads to the final piece of the puzzle. We've talked about the signaling, the status, and the strategy. But a conversation is a two-way street.
It is.
How do you keep the interaction from feeling like a cold, calculated business transaction? Because if you just walk up and deliver a perfectly optimized pitch, people will sense that you're just using them.
And nobody likes that. This is where emotional intelligence intersects with language, and we see it perfectly in Liam's final response to Sophia.
Right.
After she confidently declares that she is going to bring her A game, Liam just lights up. He replies, love that. Bring your A game. You're already sounding like a local.
Love that. It's so punchy and enthusiastic.
It is. And the cultural psychology behind this specific two-word phrase is actually profound. In modern American English culture, especially in these fast-paced business environments, love that, functions as a conversational lubricant.
A conversational lubricant. Okay, break that down for me. What is it actually lubricating?
Well, it serves two crucial functions. First, it builds immediate, undeniable rapport by saying, love that. Liam is demonstrating active listening.
Right, he isn't just waiting for his turn to speak.
Exactly. He is immediately and positively validating Sophia's mindset. And second, it serves as a vital psychological encouragement.
Because she's a non-native speaker navigating a very intimidating space.
Exactly. I mean, navigating a Manhattan rooftop full of venture capitalists is terrifying for anyone, let alone someone doing it in their second language.
Oh, I would be sweating.
Right. By enthusiastically validating her flawless use of a local idiom like a game, Liam empowers her. He creates this pocket of psychological safety, rewarding her for playing the game correctly, which encourages her to keep engaging with confidence.
But let me play devil's advocate here for a second.
Go for it.
I know people listening might be thinking, in a cutthroat, highly cynical world like fintech, doesn't an overly enthusiastic cheerleading phrase like, love that, come across as deeply fake?
Oh.
Like if I tell someone I love their strategy for market penetration, they know I don't literally, fall in love with it.
That is a very fair critique, but you have to stop looking at the literal emotion of the words and look at their social utility.
Okay, social utility.
Think about literal lubricant. Grease on a mechanical wheel isn't fake. It is a practical physical necessity to stop the metal parts from grinding together and sparking a fire.
Right, it keeps the machine running.
In the exact same way, love that
Yeah.
is the grease that stops a high-speed networking conversation from grinding to a halt.
So it's not about dumb sincerity, it's about momentum.
Precisely. Liam hasn't suddenly formed a deep, emotional, lifelong bond with Sophia's sentence. He is using a tool.
Right.
He recognizes her effort, validates her contribution, and signals that the conversation is flowing smoothly.
Yeah, if he'd had just nodded stoically and said, that is a highly effective plan, the energy would instantly die.
Totally. It would introduce friction.
Love that. Matches the NYC pace we established at the very beginning. It's fast, it's highly positive, and it ensures the train keeps moving forward toward the actual goal.
It's the ultimate tool for maintaining a frictionless environment. You keep the vibe positive so that the heavy lifting of networking, getting your foot in the door with the Julians of the world, can happen without any awkwardness.
This has been an incredibly eye-opening breakdown. Let's recap this strategy session.
Let's do it.
We started by unpacking the underlying culture, discovering that being wiped isn't a medical complaint. It is a tactical flex that proves your dedication to the hustle.
Such a crucial reframe.
Right. Then we learned how to identify the heavy hitters in the room without lowering our own status, by casually calling them a big deal and validating intelligence with a sharp, fast, spot-on.
And then we broke down the mechanics of the approach itself. We saw that the goal is to locate the movers and shakers, use those high-level connections to get your foot in the door, and mentally prepare to always bring your A game when the stakes are highest.
Yes.
And finally, we learned that applying a conversational lubricant like love that is essential to keep the entire high-speed interaction positive and completely frictionless.
The ultimate takeaway for you listening to this right now is this. Textbooks are fantastic for passing grammar tests, but they will not close a deal for you on a Soho rooftop.
Definitely not.
The goal is not flawless recitation. The goal is to sound like a living, breathing, confident insider. By blending your high-level technical knowledge with this specific modern slang, you create a potent mix of professionalism and street-smart adaptability.
You show these influential people that you don't just understand the mechanics of the industry, you understand the very heartbeat of the culture.
Exactly.
And that is the difference between being a tourist in their world and being a peer. These phrases are not just flashcards to memorize, they are social tools to be actively deployed.
They really are.
They signal to the movers and shakers that you belong in the VIP room, regardless of where you flew in from yesterday.
Well said. You are officially ready to step out of that glass elevator, walk onto the rooftop, and hold your own.
Go get 'em.
But before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over. We have meticulously covered the exact verbal signaling you need to use. You know how to talk the talk, claim your status, and keep the conversation flowing.
The verbal game is strong.
But communication is only 50% verbal. Once you have delivered your A game with your words, what silent, nonverbal cues, microexpressions, or listening habits are required to actually stay in that VIP room?
Oh, that's a whole other level.
It is. Because getting invited into the inner circle is one thing, but making sure they never want you to leave, that is a completely different game to master.